Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to a new video. Today I wanted to talk about Alacrity again. I made a video last week about Alacrity, basically just talking about switching to Alacrity, and I was building out the config file to get a version of this terminal that I was pretty happy using, but a couple of issues that I've run into, the main one being that Alacrity being an incredibly simple terminal does not support tabs or splits or anything like that, so I need to find a solution for doing that. And also while I'm here, I'm gonna rewrite my Zesh prompt, bash prompt. I think I'm just gonna end up switching to bash entirely rather than Z shell, but anyways, let's go ahead and get started. So, the first issue we have is that I want to be able to open up new tabs and new splits and things like that inside of Alacrity, and there's a good tool for doing that. You probably already know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Tmux. So, Tmux is a really popular tool for like connecting to servers. It allows you to just basically open up multiple sessions of a system pretty simply. You know, you can have multiple shells on a server. That's really where it comes from, but I think it's also going to be very helpful here. I know it's going to be very helpful here because immediately what we can do is if we hit Control BC, we can open up another tab and we can do two different things in two different tabs. You know, if I open up, let's say we'll open up GoTop over here, and you know, I'll come back over here to the first tab and I'll open up Vim. Maybe I'll open up another tab, I'll open up Emacs. I can have many different things going on at one time, and I can switch through them fairly easily. So no big deal there. I can also pretty quickly and easily open up a couple of splits. So let's say I want to split this window, and you know, we'll split it one more time. I think that's how you do that, and go over here, split it again. Then we can open up a couple of things in splits now. Basically the point is just that we're where we want to be right now already. We can open up tabs, we can open up splits, and because of a keyboard shortcut we said in the last video, we can open up new windows. So what I want to go ahead and do actually is just config Tmux a little bit. I don't want to change a lot, but I do want to change a couple of things here. So I'm gonna actually go ahead and gonna completely exit that Tmux section, the Tmux session, and I'll just launch a new Tmux session by typing Tmux. A couple of things you probably should know about Tmux if you're gonna use it. Generally, it's a good idea to like open a custom session. So normally the way that I would do something like this is I would do Tmux new -s, and then I can type in a name of a session. And then if I were to just like quit out of the terminal entirely, what I can always do is just come right back in here and say Tmux attach -t to that same session, and I'm right back where I left off. Those are two commands to keep in mind: Tmux attach and Tmux new. You can also do Tmux detach, I believe, or, you know, whatever. That syntax is weird, but what's important is that you can pretty quickly and easily look up, let's say here, what am I looking for? I'll look up Tmux shortcut cheat sheet, and there really aren't all that many shortcuts. I was like, this is a pretty powerful tool in my head, so I was surprised by like how little is you know, going on. So okay, yeah, so here we go. This is a good page. I'll drop this in the description, but as you can see, it gives you commands for you know, starting new sessions, attaching to new sessions, listing sessions, and then actual shortcuts for closing out session. Here we go: creating a new session, renaming a session, closing previous window, how to, you know, tab around here. I'm not going to talk about the shortcuts too much. You can check out this file and it'll be good for you. Yeah, so let's go ahead and actually start to edit Tmux a little bit. And the way that we do that is in our home directory, we're going to make a new file. So we're going to make, or we'll do touch to make a file. It is a file, it's not a directory. And we'll just do .tmux.conf or config. Sweet. So then if we go into that file, .tmux.config, now we have a config file where we can start editing things. So one thing I want to do right off the bat is I want to create a quick way to sort of reload the Tmux config so that we don't have to open and close sessions every time we want to try something out. So we're just going to say bind R, this is going to be the keyboard shortcut R, to source file in our home directory, tmux.conf. this should be pretty simple. All it's doing is we're using R to source the Tmux config. So if we exit out of this, we'll also have to exit Tmux to get this to work. And how can we test this pretty quickly? Oh, sweet. So we'll do Control B %. That'll open up a split. And right now we can't do anything with the mouse. That's kind of a shame. So what we'll do is we'll go into the Tmux config, and we'll come down here and we'll say set G mouse on. And now if we go ahead and do Control B and R, that should reload the Tmux config. And if we split this window, we should be able to resize it with the mouse, which we can. One other thing that we should be able to do here is if we right click, we'll have a couple of options that pop up immediately. So this mouse setting is super, super nice. Never turn on the mouse in Vim, but using Tmux with a mouse is really great. So you can see one of the cool things about this window is it allows us to open up like a couple of splits pretty easily with the mouse if you want to do it that way. I think it's probably still quicker to do it with the keyboard, but it also just shows us some of the common sort of shortcuts that we might be using or that we might want to use. So that's really great. It's very handy. And then we're going to do Vim, go back in here and let's see, let's just do set-s escape time to 0. That should like basically make things work a little bit faster. It will set the time in between running commands. There's like a little bit of a delay sometimes. We're setting that time to 0 so that we can just run we can do a whole bunch of things in Tmux right after one another, and there's no chance that we're going to be delayed. And then one other thing, I want to use Vim keys for reloading splits. So if you will notice, when we open up a couple of splits, I can click through them with a mouse now that I have mouse settings turned on. But a lot of times it's a bit of much to like go and reach over to the mouse. You know how lazy I am. It's good to be lazy. So there's also a keyboard shortcut, Control B and then an arrow will allow you to just quickly sort of navigate around any splits that you have. Once we've pressed Control B, we can just push the arrow key as many times as we want. But I'm a Vim user, so I think you know where this is going. I want to be able to use HJK and L to do that exact same thing, and luckily that is not too terribly difficult to do. We're going to come down into this, just a new line. We do bind H to select pane -L, which would be the left. It'll move us left if we're selecting a pane. Should probably spell that right, that'll help out a lot. And then let's make a couple copies here. We'll do J, and we'll do K, and we'll do L, and we'll say J should go down, K should go up, and L should go to the right. Actually, I think it makes slightly more sense to have that up there. Cool. So now let's reload Tmux and let's do a couple of splits here. And now if I do Control B, H, okay, yeah, sweet. So I can move around using Vim keys now. Very, very nice. Okay, so this is actually pretty much all that I want to do to Tmux. I don't want to actually change it that much because I do actually SSH into machines sometimes, and it's nice that Tmux is there. So I don't want to like get used to using other key bindings to do things on my system. Then when I SSH into another computer, I have to remember like what the default settings are. A lot of people like to remap Control B to Control A. Control B is sort of the default like leader for Vim or Tmux commands. You just hit Control B and then whatever you push after that will control Tmux. I don't actually find Control B all that awkward of a key press. Control A actually almost feels slightly more awkward to me. So I'm going to leave that at default. There's a few other things that a lot of people do to Tmux. I'm not really interested in much of any of it other than messing with the status bar. And before I recorded this video, I spent a whole lot of time trying to build like a nice little simple status bar, and there are great ways to do that. You can look up, let's see, Tmux status bar themes, and there are themes that people have built already. There are other people's GitHub resources or dot files that you can just download and use if you want to. Look at this. This is the Nord theme. Hey, look at that. This is a nice theme that I use sometimes, the Nord theme, and it looks like it's built into Tmux. Wow. Okay, that's cool. But there are a lot of status bar themes that you can use in Tmux. What I'm going to do though, because what I'm really just using this for is just a way to open up new tabs and things in Alacrity, is I'm going to say set-G status off. And what that should do, if we reload Tmux here, is just disappear the status bar. Now, we can still open up new windows and do everything that we've been able to do. It's just we're doing it without a status bar. It's basically blind. We're working with Alacrity like it's Alacrity. We just have some key bindings built underneath it, and there's no real notification of it. We just have to sort of know what's going on. I like that. I'm okay with that. So I think I'm happy with that for a Tmux config. One thing I should mention, a shortcut that will be very helpful for you, Control-B-W will just show you all the windows that you have in Tmux. And then if you hit like X, you can close through some of these pretty quickly. Also, that right click menu is there. That'll be helpful. And there we go. I've got Tmux configured how I want it. Next up, I want to mess around with Zeesh. And by mess around with Zeesh, I mean get rid of it and move to Bash, which on macOS is slightly tricky to do. So let's take a look at that. Go ahead and reset here. So the basic problem that I'm trying to address here is that if I take a look at my home directory, it's gotten very crowded. And there's a lot of things in a lot of people's home directories. But if you look right here, this first bit here is all just dot files. And if you notice, a whole bunch of these are actually Zeesh dot files. We've got a ZSRC, we've got a Zeesh history, a Z profile, a zcomp dump, a whole bunch of things here. But on top of that, we also have a P10K configuration file. That's the theme that I use for OhMyZeesh. And speaking of OhMyZeesh, we have an OhMyZeesh configuration file. It's crowding up my home directory a lot, and I'm not sure that I'm getting much back for it. There's some cool things about using OhMyZeesh with Z shell. A couple of cool things about the theme that I use, Powerline 10K. But I basically am just to the point that I want to build my own prompt. I want to customize it myself and just put what I want to be there. And as long as I'm going to be doing that, it makes about as much sense to use Bash or about as much sense to use Z shell. Bash is the default on most systems that I use. So I'm just going to switch to Bash and we'll see how things go. I might end up switching back, who knows. So first thing we need to do is we need to take a look at a file on macOS called shells. So the way that you do that is we can do cat, that will concatenate out a file, and we'll do /etc/shells. What this is a file that stores all of the default shells that we can use on macOS. And some of what I'm talking about here is very specific to macOS because around Catalina, macOS actually switched to Z shell by default rather than Bash. So if I were to just load /bin/bash, I can switch to the Bash shell, but you'll see I get this really annoying message. It's saying, hey, the default shell is Zeesh now. Hey, we're using a really old version of Bash, and they are using a really old version of Bash. This is version 3, and it's telling us just basically, hey, run this command and change your shell to Zeesh. Don't use Bash. I don't really know why, so let's fix that. First thing we want to do is if you are on macOS, you would want to run brew cask or brew install bash. That will install bash for you, the most recent version. Okay, now from there, what we want to do is actually change our shell to bash. So if we cat out that etc shells file again, you can see all of the location to bash here. So what I would do is I would do change shell -s, that's the syntax, and then -bin/bash. It's going to ask for a password. And then if we were to just completely quit Alacrity, reload, it should automatically open up in Bash, which it does, but we're still using the default Bash, so we're going to get all this info telling us, hey, switch to Zeesh. Here's how you switch to Zeesh. Why are you using Bash? So what we actually have to do is we have to use the version of Bash that we just installed, which isn't located at /bin/bash. It's located elsewhere. We installed it with Homebrew. So what we can do is we can run which bash. That will tell us exactly where it is. It's /user/local/bin/bash. And then what we can do is we can take a look at that file again, /etc/shells. And what we have to do is we have to edit it. So we'll do sudo vim /etc. And then when we hit enter, it will ask for a password to our system. And assuming you can type it correctly, we can go ahead and just add a line in here. So we will do that. Okay, and then we can run that change shell command one more time, and we're just going to say oh, I already forgot what it was. It was, oh, don't worry, we've got it in the clipboard. It's /user/local/bin/bash. Boom. It's going to ask for a password one more time here. And now if we just completely open and close Alacrity one more time, scale up a bit, now we're using normal Bash. which actually should mean that now we are free to delete a whole bunch of the stuff that we no longer want. So let me go into a file explorer here, and we can just start going crazy here. We'll delete all my Zeesh. We'll delete, I don't know what that is. We'll delete, we want to get rid of the Zeesh. Well, no, we don't want to get rid of the Zeesh RC yet. We can get rid of the Zeesh history. We can get rid of both of these files here. We can get rid of this p10k file, and our home directory is a bit cleaner. So let's work on this. So a couple things I want to do. I want to just rename the ZShrC to bash RC. Okay. And then I will do the same thing with the Z profile, except I believe with bash we can use just a standard generic .profile file. Already our home directory is a bit cleaner, but we're gonna have to do some configuration to get this to work right. So I'll go into my bash RC here, and woo, let's do nvim there. And okay, let's get rid of some of the Z stuff here. So basic bash settings, we're just gonna delete all of that. None of those settings are gonna apply. We will go ahead and just keep using that same path directory command. The path directory is really handy. It lets us run scripts from this folder .bin without having to type out the whole location. So that's very handy. I'm going to keep that. I'm going to keep all of my aliases here and all of the default settings here. So now we can just start to actually work on bash. So one of the first things I know I want to do is I'm just going to say set -o v, and what that should do is turn on v mode inside of bash. So I think I have to reload bash. And then if I start typing a command, what I should be able to do is hit escape, and I can use like basically vim commands inside of the shell. So that's very handy. Let me reload Alacrity for a second, because I don't know if it's reading. Okay, so it's reading our .profile file, which I know because if I take a look at my .profile, you can see I'm basically running a fortune command. It's going to source a custom fortune database and print out a quote every time, but my bash RC is not being linked up, and I know that because I have a alias, or I've aliased vim to open up neovim. So whenever I type in vim, it should be opening up neovim. It's not, it's opening up regular vim, and we have no syntax or anything. So let's see what's going on there. So I'm just going to search like bash not loading bash RC, and we'll see what pops up. Maybe we can find like a Stack Overflow article or something. Oh, hey, look at that. There's something. There's an answer. Little script here looks like, okay, let's see if that works. So I think I need to put this in probably, oh, okay, the profile file. So let's go into the profile, and I guess I'll just drop it up top here. And I guess we'll quit Alacrity, load it again, and then I guess we can just try to use one of our aliases. So I'll try to open up Vim, and okay, it opens up in nvim. All right, so now we're actually reading the bash RC. Very nice. So let's go back into the bash RC, and let's keep editing a couple of things here. The first thing that I want to do is I'm going to say bind set completion, completion ignore case on. And what that should do is, by default, if we're like changing directories, and let's say I've got a directory here called .repo or repo, and it's spelled with a capital R. If I go to change directory and I accidentally type a lowercase r, it's just not going to tab complete it. Or more likely, what I usually do is I hit the capital R, but I accidentally type out the E. It's also not going to tab complete it. So what this setting should do is that if I go to change the directory, it'll just ignore case as long as I have the right letters. That'll work. I believe that's how Zeesh works by default, and I like that. So go ahead and keep working here. A couple of other just little like homekeeping, housekeeping type of things make this a little easier to use. I'm going to do shop-s cd spell, and what that should do is correct any like small spelling errors automatically. I don't know how that works. I haven't actually typed anything close enough to write that it corrected it for me, but whatever. And then I'm do complete-d cd. And what this should do is that when I type cd and hit tab, it's only going to recommend actual directories for me to cd into. It's not going to pull up a list of every file that I could possibly change directory into, because I can't change directory into a file. So that's just a little like peace of mind type thing. And now let's go back into the bash RC, and we'll get to the fun part, the thing I've been looking forward to, and that is that I want to build a custom prompt. And if you saw my video where I went through NeoVim and built a NeoVim status bar, or much like the Tmux thing earlier, this is going to be very, very simple. I just want to get a starting point that I can work with a little bit later on. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to type in PS1 equals, and then some quotes and a semicolon, and then I'll type export PS1. What this should allow us to do is just literally type in anything that we want to be in the prompt. If every time I loaded my prompt, I wanted this to say, Pokemon go to the polls, I could do that. When I reload bash, that's my bash shell now, and I can still run any commands straight from the prompt. It's just a custom prompt. So I'll go back inside of here, and what we really want to do is add like some dynamic content here. It really doesn't make sense to just have like a string in there printed out. So what I can do is I'll look up like bash prompt variables. I don't know exactly what to call this. Yeah, that might be what we're looking for. Okay, cool. Yeah, this is exactly what we want. So if we look, we have like escape characters that we can use to display different things in our bash prompt. You can see right here, if we do like /d, it'll display the date, -h will display the host name, got -j to display jobs. We can do the time in a couple of different ways, the username, the version of bash, the release of bash, current working directory. Yeah, I want to aim for just a very, very simple sort of prompt here. So what I'm going to go for is I'm going to have it literally just display the current working directory. So that's going to be /w. Okay, and a lot of times you would type in, you would do like an actual prompt, like in bash it's $, and zeesh it's a greater than sign. And if I reload bash, you know, that's a fairly standard looking prompt. I want to get even simpler than that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into the bash RC, and I'm just going to delete that part. And now if we reload bash, my prompt is literally just going to say the directory that we're in, and then we can start typing. But if I do change directory, it will display the current directory that we are in. If I wanted to have it just display the actual name of the folder that we're in, I could do W, I believe. And if we reload bash, what that should do is, let's say I go into like a journal folder. Okay, yeah, that's cool. So I don't know which way I'm going to prefer that. I'm going to leave it at the w for now to display like the whole working directory. Reload bash. Yeah, that should be good. One other thing I might want to take a look at here, this is mentioned in the article we were looking at, is we might try to add some color. So let's say we want to make our prompt like red. I think if we just copy and paste this bit in right here, /e031m, go back into the bash RC, and I think if we just type this in front, what should happen is now we'll have a red prompt. Okay, that's cool. Oh, but now the whole text is red, so that's not really ideal. What if I go, okay, yeah, so the prompt itself is red, but so is the text that we're typing. So let's work on that a bit. First thing I want to do is clean this up a bit. It looks like we're not gonna need that space or that. So if we reload bash again, okay, cool. Red isn't really a great color, so if we take a look over here, we've got some other options here. We can just use green, that should be 32. So if we change 31 to 32 and reload bash, okay, that's much nicer. Let's go back in here and try to fix our actual text so that everything isn't green. How do we do that? So we're gonna need to copy this escape character again. And foreground color is normal, non-bold is the default. So the 0 prefix is optional. Okay. So how do we just change this back to default? I guess we could just use like light gray or something. So if we like add this to the end of that prompt, let's just come right in here. Reload bash. Okay, yeah, that works. Yeah, I think that'll be fine. So then we can cd into Dropbox writing. Now that's not the same color. That's not the default color. Okay, what if we just set this to 00M and reload bash? Oh, okay, cool. That'll work. That's the default color, I believe. Yeah, definitely it is. Awesome. So what I did there was I One last thing I want to do here is I'm going to create a couple of extra lines. I want to separate things out a bit. So I'm going to separate out the portion here where we create the first color, the green color. I'm going to create the actual prompt that we want to use. And then we'll have one more for switching back to the normal color. I'm going to put this on different lines just because that seems like a good way to keep it organized. And, you know, that's what I've read online to do. So I'm going to do PS1 plus equals, and then we'll surround that in quotes. Keep in mind, I'm keeping an open space here because I want there to be an open space, one space in between the prompt and what we actually type. And then if I do PS1 plus equals that, okay, and we exit, reload bash, we're all set. Awesome. So now I have a stupid simple prompt. Tmux is working perfectly. If I remember to actually attach to the session. Now we're all set. Bash prompt is working, Tmux is working, we can do splits and everything else that we'd want to do. We have mouse support working, got a new bash prompt, it's very simple, we built it ourselves, and I'm much happier using Alacrity. So, thank you everybody for watching this video. I will see you in the next one. Stay safe.